Hi guys, hi to everyone. The reason I'm posting this because I have some major news. Well, it was major for me, and I can now safely say, without without any doubt, well, I'm prepared to share this with you, the public, without any doubt that anybody can judge me, that things that have been happening in the past few years that have been the fragment of my imagination, or my mind is going loopy or whatever. In the past few days there have been so many things. I've seen so many things, um, not just me feeling what was going on, that I can safely tell the true story. Um, I'm sorry, I'm always doing this from my car lying down, which is probably not the most attractive video to watch, but I always believe that the content behind everything is much more important than surroundings. So, and my surroundings are like this right now. I'm somewhere in nature, where I always park my car so nobody would bug me, but they obviously find me every time, because I've been on a target for 24/7. Now, that statement might seem to you like, oh, she's been on a target, she's not very important, why would somebody, chase her, blah blah blah. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the story from the beginning. I've not had a very good relationship with my parents since I ever remember, and as I've been saying in all my videos, I have narcissistic parents, and if you know how narcissism dynamics work within the family. I have a younger brother, 18 months younger brother, and he was always the pretty one and I was the ugly one, and I never had much hair, and you can hear that in my other videos. I think it's Narc Parents and My Childhood, the title, there are a couple of videos. And so basically from the start I was treated like shit, which means psychological abuse and typical narcissistic behavior from my parents, which means triangulation, try to set up my brother against me, telling him lies again, about me. There was a lot of emotional blackmail. I was It was my fault every time something happened to them, or even if nothing happened, they would always blame it on me. Um, they would create situations. They could blame everything on me, and that started from the earliest age, from the earliest I remember, which was about 3 and 4, and which is, if you really think about it, it's so fucking cruel to put a 3, 4-year-old child under such pressure. But the pedophilic point of view is about this, that kids can take on a lot, and we adapt and we get used to it, and when we get used to it we think that's normal, which at some point I did think that was normal, and I accepted it. But subconsciously, your body creates a defensive mechanism to survive such abuse, and defensive mechanisms are mostly lying. So I may get back to this later because I really want to tell what my message really is today. Um, so where was I? Growing up in a narcissistic family, yeah. So I was blamed for everything. My brother was the golden child. I was the black sheep. The lead key in this was my father. He was a typical narcissist. He would never take blame for anything. For instance, I would say to him, "Oh, but you did this," and he would blame it on circumstances, he would blame it on his job. He would never ever take responsibility, even for his own actions. He would blame somebody else or something else, or basically he was never the guilty one. He would never say, "Oh, these are my cruel or any actions, I'm sorry." And also in my family there was never the word said, "I'm sorry, thank you, and please." Those three words were never practiced, never fucking ever. Okay, only when I came from London, um, I really paid attention if they would say things when I would um, they literally made me owe them some money. Okay, my parents would send me from time to time 20 or 50 euros. Um, but when your child is trying to build a career or settle outside in abroad, I think any parent would help them child one way or another. But no, my parents, after I came back from London, they um, they added up all the money they sent me, and they asked me to return that money. Seriously. Fortunately for me, I had money to return. I would have returned that money anyway, but just the fact that they asked for it made me really, really sad, and think about what they really like and question their integrity. So I gave them 3 times more than they gave me. So just to make peace and say, "Look, instead of 700 euros, I've given you 2,000 euros." So, and I remember all of them when I came back from a bank. I remember all of them like vultures surrounding me. And my money even wasn't on a table yet. So I'm counting all the money, and they like vultures sitting around and counting the money, how much they're going to get. So I gave all of them their share part, which they didn't deserve, but I gave it to them all anyway, to think, you getting this now, leave me alone, okay? And I was particularly aware of how they're going to react on receiving the cash. And let me tell you, none of them, none, and I've said that so many times, and I've been consistent in telling the story because it's true, because I can't skew the truth, not anymore. They never said thank you. Never, ever, ever. So, okay, going back to me being raised, throughout my childhood and throughout my teenage years, there was constant to keep me in a emotional cage, like emotional prison. There was a constant psychological abuse, such as degrading, threats, What's the word in English? I'm gonna say it in Slovene, but you can look it up. I'm trying to. I'm not. I try not to waste this this data space. So I'm trying to. Ponižovanie. You know what? When you put somebody down, that's ponižovanie. Um, And what's another word for threats? Ustrahovanie. They keep injecting me with the fear constantly. Really, so much. They use that type of. Sorry, my back is hurting the way I lay down, so I'll be moving probably from time to time. But don't let that bother you. It's enough painful for me. So they would inject fear about anything and everything, and they would prevent me to develop my talents. I was very sportive person, and the way when they realized that, they would prevent me to go to trainings, and by saying, oh, you can't go, you have to do homework, or you can't go, it's dark outside and you something might happen to you. So that's fear injecting. Instead of taking me to the training point and picking me up after I had finished, they would never do that, but they would say, no, you can't go. So I could never develop any talent. Really, I was never, I, I was talented in so many ways: sports, dancing, drawing, which it showed when I attended a fashion school. And I had the highest grade, and teachers, some of them were impressed, and some of them, when they saw the painting, they would, for instance, admire it and like, wow, this is who did this? Who did this? And I wouldn't raise my hand because the teacher said she's gonna mark the by just by seeing, so she wouldn't be judgmental. But when she saw my drawing or my graphic design, she insisted of who's done it. She insisted on person raising his hand, and obviously after a while I had to do it because she just wouldn't stop. So I raised my hand, and instead of the higher grade, she didn't give me the higher grade. She gave me half of the lower high grade. So yeah, fuck you, teachers. Some of you. Some of them are really nice. So, and also the abuse I had to endure. I was gonna say this in some other videos, but I'm gonna say it now really, really quickly because I have so much other stuff to tell you. So I'm gonna speed this up as much as I can. One of my mom's colleagues and a friend who used to live in the next block, in a next entrance in the same block of flats, he would sexually abuse me by, I'm going to describe it, so you judge for yourself. When I attended therapies while I was when growing up, all the therapists have characterized it as a sex abuse or pedophilic abuse. Once I visited, or I wanted to play with his daughter, who was about a year or couple of years younger than me, and I was about 4 or 5, and she was about a year younger. And I would visit her, and he asked me to come in. I can't quite remember where his wife was. I think she was doing something in the kitchen. She wasn't present in the living room. and the little girl was getting ready. So me and this guy were alone in the living room, and he asked me to sit on his lap. So he would give me a horse ride. You know, when you when you put a child on his knees and you kind of rock them up and down, pretending they're on a horse, or you know. So, but the way he positioned me, I wasn't on the end of his knees. I was touching, my back was touching his belly, which was kind of strange, because the point of, you know, doing the horse thing, you at the end of the knees, so you can feel the bump, you can feel the jumping up and down. He would position me with my back very close, not very close, but I was touching his, my back was touching his belly. And when he started jumping up and down, I started feeling pain, a rubbing pain against my back. And I didn't say it straight away, but after a while, when the pain became unbearable, I said to him, "Oh, please stop, it's hurting me." And he says, "Oh, it's only a belt." And I said, "Can you please remove the belt then?" And he says, "Oh, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop soon. Let's do this for a little while longer." And he kept doing this, and it was so painful. I just couldn't start the. I just couldn't stand the pain anymore. And I said, "Can you please stop? It's really, really hurting me." And now I know he was rubbing his dick against my back. He was wanking on my back. Now, how fucking sick is that? We and the girl left after that, and I don't think I ever came back, because at the time I didn't feel comfortable. I was afraid of him, because he wasn't listening. He didn't stop when I asked him to, and I don't think I came back. Gosh, this is so hard to hold. So that was one. And also, I really, he had such a strange relationship with his daughter. It was, by first sight, you would think he really cared about his daughter, which I'm sure he did. But the way the way he looked at her, it was like, I can see that now, but at the time it seemed really odd to me. And I can still remember the looks that he gave to his daughter. It was like being in love with her, and he would, just the way he would touch her and hold her, it was so weird. And you know, what I've seen, and what I've seen years after, when I came back from London, when I was equipped with more knowledge and social interaction and you know, all the rest. When I saw them in public, I could actually see, and it made me stick to my stomach and through my bones. And I very much suspect that he abused her as well. And also, it was, I think it is my belief, it was an incest, and she willingly went into that, which is really sad. She had a younger brother. He was really cute, but he was never sort of um, he was never sort of exposed in a way that it would make anything obviously. But him and his daughter, that was quite sickening. And when I was about 10 or 11, There were, we used to live in council flats, and it was, the most of, it was a low. Mm, I was considered as a liar, but I didn't know that at the time. I only realized that when I grew up and stopped studying psychology, and I placed more attention to what was going on um, in my childhood while I was living in London, because I wanted to get rid of the attitude my parents have forced upon me, and I wanted to change that. And I didn't want to follow my parents' path, and I knew there was something really wrong the way they raised me, and I wanted to change the attitude towards that. So I bettered myself, and that's why I escaped to London, where I lived 14 years. And I was very successful in everything I did, and I discovered my skills, and people loved me, and the way people interacted with me felt really natural, and that's where I realized that everything that happened in my childhood was really unnatural, and it was my parents that raised me that way, and none of them was my fault, which I didn't believe at the time. I thought everything was my fault, as they said, and I lived with that, and I always blamed myself, and that was it. So when I was about 10 or 11, my two of the guys, one of them was underage. He was about 1 year older, maybe a couple of years older at the most than me, and there was his brother, who was over 18, so he was an adult by law. And they asked me to come upstairs to their flat. Their mum was absent. She was working at the community health centre as a nurse, and they asked me to come upstairs, and I very, very reluctantly went up there, because I remember they tried to woo me with sweets, and they have a surprise for me, and they have a present for me, and um, as a child, when your parents don't give you that much, and everything is absent from you, you kind of go for it, because I was very skeptical at the time, because the invitation was so in my face. It was very suspicious, but when they tried to warm me with all the stuff they were offering me, I kind of, they buttered me up, basically. So I went upstairs, and I asked where the present is. I was quite hesitant to enter the flat, because the whole situation was really, it was just odd that they suddenly wanted me in their flat. They never invited me to that flat before, so why suddenly, and why when their mum wasn't present? So all these circumstances made it really strange. That invitation sounded really strange. But I went in anyway, and they invited me into the bedroom, and I I found it more strange. So I went in anyway, and I saw the older brother lying on a bed, naked, with a hard on, and I I actually, I feel sick now. I feel sick to my stomach now, and sorry, my dog just came in and he wants some attention. So that made me really sick. And they tried to, when they saw the expression on my face, they tried to make it easy on me, and they said, they said, "Oh, it's okay. Don't be afraid. I just, I just come here, come here. I'm not going to do anything to you. It's okay. Don't worry. Don't be afraid. It's nothing." They tried to calm me down because they saw the horror in my face. I was horrified, but I thought I was hiding it successfully, which obviously, which 10 or 11-year-old can do that. Um, so they the younger guy sort of kind of pushed me or placed me close to the bed, and they tried to convince me to touch his dick, which was standing up. And when I saw his dick, I I I nearly felt sick. I wasn't sick, I wasn't vomiting, but I felt sick. And they wanted me to touch it. And I said no. And the younger guy and the older guy, they both in turns, they lifted my right hand. It wasn't the left one. They lifted my right hand because it was closest to his dick, and they forced me to touch it. And I remember, oh, I just feel sick talking about this, because the memories and the feelings and everything comes out so alive. I sorry, I just so I so I they made me touch his dick, and I remember as soon as I touched it, I moved my hand away because it felt so gross. It felt so gross and unnatural, and I felt so uncomfortable and horrified being there. And I just said I wanted to go. And they kept asking me to touch his dick and to rub it up and down. And it's nothing you should be ashamed of, and things like that. So, gosh. So, and they tried to do it again, but I just couldn't go through the whole procedure, if you like. So I wanted to express my wish. I wanted to go, and I started. I nearly cried, and I started begging them if I could go, because I didn't feel comfortable. And then they threatened me if I would tell this to anyone, they would make me a liar, and they would tell me I'm a liar, and they wouldn't admit it. So I literally ran down the stairs, and I felt horrified. And I remember I I I just I was just so confused what had happened, because it never happened obviously before, and I was just very confused. I just remember being really confused and horrified, and but they never did that again. They never did that again. So that. And when oh there was something else. I was about 10, and I can't quite remember where it was. I think it was after this incident. I used to train roller skating, and I would have to have my roller skates repaired, and the guy who would do that would ask me to come and pick them up on Sunday. Seriously? On Sunday when nobody's around? And this was like an older guy in his 60s. And I remember coming into his working. It was a little house situated in the middle of a park next to a roller skating ground, exercising and training ground. And his workshop was really tiny, but it wasn't tiny in a sort of squarish thing, but it was tiny as in a like few meters long hall, so only he or like two persons could walk along each other. It wasn't really wide, but it was quite long. So he invited me in, and I said, no, I'm just going to wait here at the door. And he insisted I come in so I would see what he had done, and some shit like that. And when I reluctantly approached him, and I remember being locked in that corner, and he would stand behind me, and then I turned around, and then he put his both hands, he would like around like he was trying to catch me or hug me, and he says, you can't run away now. And he started coming towards me like, I'm gonna get you now. And that's when I knew I have to escape, and he was up to something no good. And I remember wrestling with him, and I remember not being able to run away straight away because I was too small and I was too weak going against a 60-year-old. And then I remember sliding under his arms and running away, and I would run the whole time home, and I was petrified. I remember being petrified. But I, I, I don't think I told it to my mum because she would never protect me. If you watch one of other videos when I talk about this, she would never protect me, never ever. She would always laugh at my face, and she would never protect me. So to continue this, gosh, it's half an hour gone. I'm gonna have to take another one. Only because I don't have much space on this, and I will have to post this on YouTube and then make another one. But I'm telling you this now because I slept literally throughout the night because I wasn't gassed. And the reason I'm taping this because now I have the energy to tell you, because when I'm gassed, I'm so tired. I'm craving for sleep, and I'm always trying to find places where I could hide and have some sleep because I'm gassed all the time, and it's breaking my body's immune system down, and I've lost about 3/4 of my hair. And so to skip a lot of things. Oh, let me just remind you that everything I tell you is words. Okay, I'm trying to describe situations. I cannot describe everything because we all know most of communication is non-verbal, and non-verbal consists of 95% of all communication. Only 5% of communication is verbal. So I can't describe to you what I sensed, what I saw, what my body detected, if you know what I mean. So the way I can do it is express through my words, but I can't express every feeling, every subconscious information that my body stored. So either you believe what I'm saying or either you're not. But when you grow up in narcissistic environment, you become very susceptible, you become very intuitive of the body language people around you, because you are in constant fear, because parents are injecting the fear in you, and you live in constant fear, and this is your body's reaction to it. You become very aware of people's body language, and literally you become an expert of reading people's body language. And trust me, no psychology study or course can give that to you. They can only give you what is written in textbooks, and that's it. They can't give you how you can read body language. So this so far is pretty exhausting, and my dog is biting my right hand, which is quite annoying because he wants to play. We just woke up an hour ago and he wants to play. So I'm gonna try and continue, just in case you don't believe me. He's nearly 5 months old and he's teething and he needs his attention. So growing up, okay, moving to London, because by the age of 18 I was so nervous. My parents have put me through so much shit and through so much unfairness. I was blamed for everything. Philip, please stop. This is your toy. You need to bite your toy, not my hand. They put me so much everything. My hands were literally shaking by the age of 18. I was such a nervous wreck. And my relationship with my brother was, it sucked. He would blame me for everything. At a very young age, he would blackmail me. I would entrusted in him like personal information and boyfriend stuff, and because I didn't have anybody, I had my friend, but I thought the families are about connection and trusting, so I would trust things in him. And what he did, he would blackmail me every time he wanted something done, like cleaning up his room. He was always lazy about that, very lazy. He was all about hanging out with his gang, stealing stuff, and he was a little thief from the beginning, from an early age, from like age of 4, literally. And I described one of his first stealing incidents in one of other videos, so I'm not going to repeat myself. And this enough is draining already. So gosh, I thought I had so much energy before. Now I'm really draining just telling you this, remembering all this shit. So I'm actually thinking whether to continue. I was so hopeful I'll be able to tell you the whole story, but tomorrow I'm going to be gassed again. I'm going to suffer lack of sleep again, and it's just going to be shit all over again. I won't be bothered to tell you stuff, and I want to, because I want to make people aware what narcissistic parents can be like, and also about pedophilia and how pedophiles can out somebody out and make them a predator and spread lies about me, because I outed out few pedophiles, including a member of my close family who was hugging another member of my close family in a very inappropriate way, an adult person hugging a very, very young child in a very inappropriate way. And I remember while he was doing that, he was doing that to me when I was a child, and I had exactly the same reaction as this child had. and I could never forgive myself if I didn't do anything about this. So I went to social services. I didn't go to social services because of that. I went to tell them something else, but while I was there, I told them about this because I expected some sort of advice how to handle this, where they made the whole load of lies about this. They made an elephant out of the mouse. They lied in their reports about this. They made in the report, 3/4 of lies about this. And my family disowned me, as if I haven't disowned them, when I moved to London when I was 20. I changed my surname because I couldn't live with the surname that I was carrying from my dad. I didn't hate him, but I didn't want to be close. I didn't want to be connected with them in that way, to remind myself, oh, my surname comes from my dad. I didn't want to be reminded, so I switched it to my mum's. And when I came from London, I saw how my mother treated me, and she treated me like shit. She was physically abused towards me. I was very, very ill at the time, and instead of comfort and attention and compassion, I was given lots of psychological abuse and put downs and name callings and physical abuse. And she even convinced me to go to the psychiatric hospital where I could relax. That's what she called it, relaxer. And she did that so she could create me. As if I said anything, if I ever told about anybody about my child abuse, she would have a backup, like she's a mental patient, she's a liar, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Mental patients are considered not stable, and people are less likely to believe a mental patient, and she was building up to that, so she labeled me as one. And instead of what I find it really strange, instead of sending me to psychiatric hospital, why she just didn't stop the psychological abuse? What parent would send their own child to a psychiatric ward and not stop the abuse they were giving to the child? It doesn't make sense. So basically, back to the social services and what this member of my family did to another member of a family who was a 4-year-old child. They disconnected all the ties with me. So for a couple of years, I lived without them contacting me, which was fine. At the time, I was the happiest. My hair has suddenly grown. I've never had so much hair. I think I was the most happiest in my life. I would literally go to sleep with a smile on my face. I would wake up with a smile on my face. I got a job, a really shitty job, but I still managed to be happy in it, and people kept asking me how I was so happy every day. But when I needed for my doctors, I needed my mother's a statement, because magically, from where I used to grow up, from where I was abused, and the abuser's mum worked in the community center, my childhood file and my teenage file was mysteriously lost. and they said it was lost in a flood. I never got the information. By law, I should have been notified about this. I was never. And all the circumstances that surrounded, I should be notified of. I was never notified. I was just told the file was lost. So I asked my mother to write a statement, so she did. And from then on, we kind of started talking to each other. But she would she would change. She would really change. She was like be very attentive, and she would ask me a lot of questions, and she would try to get a lot of information from me. Like, she was interested what I was doing through the day, what foods I liked, what are my thoughts, like everything. And she was never like that before, and that seemed really strange. I was very happy to tell her, and I was hopeful, like, she changed. But boy, was I wrong. Years later, when my health was degrading and I didn't know why, and I started taking pills, lots of pills, and addictive pills, and she would encourage to take me that, which I found really strange.